Hello my friends and welcome to a video about an actual holiday or a special novelty day because what the world doesn't have enough of are novelty days. March 8th is considered National Retro Video Game Day. And the reason why I'm doing this is because, well, since most people on YouTube or Twitter or what have you, most people who are on social media, they're gamers. If not, they want to get into it because they think it's trending. And the thing is, it's not really a trending thing. It's really something more to it than say, it's been around since we've been around. Since the 70s, that's how it goes all the way back. It's like 50 years. 50 years we've been on the scene playing video games. So, as always, I'm going to go into this and, of course, after I'm done with the reading of said article, I'm going to share my thoughts and feelings about it. And by the way, I didn't get this from the gang. No, I actually got it from another Discord I'm a part of. And it's just funny, I never realized that this was a thing. And what's funny was this past week we had National Retro Video Game Day as well as Mario Day, otherwise known as March 10th. So Mario. The 10 makes it Mario. So Mario Day. Okay, so let's get into this. This was released off on that day. National Retro Video Game Day is annually observed on March 8th. It's a day for vintage gamers to reminisce and play the games they played prior to the introduction of Xbox, PlayStation, Wii, and other modern gaming systems. It's a celebration of the evolution of video games from the days of Mario and Pac-Man to the complex games of today, which feature intricate storylines and stunning imagery. Let's take a stroll down memory lane to recall these classic games. The background of National Retro Video Game Day. Numerous gamers make a living off their gaming content, demonstrating the significance of the industry. Many gamers have converted their hobby into a source of income, despite the fact that playing video games has remained one of the most popular pastimes since their inception. From its humble beginnings as old-school arcade games to the creation of entire universes with complex stories and powerful characters in a digital world, gaming has made significant technological advancements. In 1967, inventor and game designer Ralph Baer, also known as the father of computing, created the Brown Box, the world's first commercially available game system. This inspired Atari to develop the now classic video game Pong. This led to the development of classic video games like Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. National Retro Video Game Day is celebrated annually on March 8th throughout the United States to commemorate Baer and retro video games. On this day, a variety of gaming events are conducted, and new versions of existing games are released. Today, or that day, is an entire day devoted to gamers and their retro games, which have gone on to inspire and create the games that everyone appreciates today. So, there are various activities like enjoying a classic game. Bring out some of your ancient systems and play some games you haven't played in quite some time. I use emulators. You can also show them to younger gamers who have never seen them before, so they can see the differences between older and more recent video games. Or you can host a retro game celebration, organize a gathering to play a variety of retro video games with your friends. That's what streaming's for. You may also host a retro video game party and dress as your favorite retro video game characters. Do you realize how much money that's worth these days? I mean, if you're going to go out as Mario or Samus Aran or even somebody from Final Fantasy, from Tara Bradford to Edgar Sabin Figaro, or even Cloud Strife, Zack Fair, Tifa Lockhart, and even Eris Gainsborough, and who could not forget about the Turks or Sephiroth, or even Golbez, or even the Warrior Light from 1, or even Firion from 2, or the Onion Kid. Pick your poison. There's a lot you can actually do, and it's not just you can host a retro game celebration, but it's the thought that counts. Organize local retro video game events. I go to World A if I wanted that. Participate in and organize local tournaments and events for classic video games. This is why I go to expos to do that if I really wanted to. Anime Expo usually does that. This is a great way to create enjoyable and bonding activities to your gaming community. 5 early retro games that you should know about. Now, mind you, I do not know this because I was born during the tail end of the 70s and right into the 80s. In 1958, William Higginbotham, an American physicist, devised the first video game for entertainment purposes. It features 2 spaceships, the Needle and the Wedge, controlled by human users who engage in a dogfight within the gravity well of a star. This first commercially available arcade video game, created by Nolan Bushnell and Ted Dabney in 1971, and it's a derivative of Space War. This first domestic video game console was created in 1972 and consisted of a black and white and brown oblong box connected to 2 rectangular controls via wires. It's considered the first commercially effective video game that made the industry viable. So, over the years, or the upcoming years, March 8th of this year was Wednesday. Next year, on a Friday, 2025, Saturday, 2026, a Sunday, and in 2027, Monday. I'm sensing a trend here, do you? And, yeah, that's about it. So, for those who know me, video games have played a big part in my life. I usually play retro games more than I play modern games because of how I grew up. The strongest influence in my life has always been my mother, because she, along with my dad, used to play Pac-Man. And she was always beaten by my dad in Pac-Man. And many controllers, or rather, back in the day, joysticks. Many joysticks were broken because of Pac-Man. Because my dad burned out so many joysticks, it's just ridiculous. We used to have an Atari 7800. Now, the thing was, the one game that they always played was Pac-Man. I never saw them play any other game other than Pac-Man. So, me growing up with video games, the thing I had to get over was echolania. Now, echolania is basically when you can't hear, when you can hear from one ear and it just somehow you can't really hear out the other, but you get an echo from it, and it's very loud and it's like it's like sonar, like that's how it feels. You feel like it's sonar. It's like it rings in the ears, and it was very, very, very uncomfortable for me to actually listen to something. So, me as a kid, I turned down the TV. So, even though I would do this, I'm just only going to do this for a second. But if you see this, that's basically what I went through growing up as a kid. So, there you have it. Years later, after growing out of it or getting healed for it, I started to enjoy the sound of everything. I enjoyed the sound of video games. I enjoyed the sound of music. I enjoyed, natural sounds. And every now and then, my ears would, start ringing. But not as bad as it used to be as a child. Excuse me on. Excuse me on. I would also say that video games have kept me out of, well, it kept me away from gangs. Kept me away from drugs. It kept me away from so many negative influences. It got me away from negative influences that would make me, the opposite of who I am right now. Now, the one thing I couldn't do, and I wish I did, and I honestly knew I could possibly do, is make some sort of, if not work for it, but, make a side hustle on streaming. That's all I really want to know. And if I can, learn what I need to know of how to make a side hustle off of what I stream, that'd be great. That's the only thing I would really want to do, is learn how to do a side hustle with my streams. And that means, I can stream 3 times a week. I can stream 3 times a week or 4 times a week and get paid for it. And these days, now that I'm streaming more, offers are being, flung at me to say, well, if you we're offering you X amount of money for HelloFresh. We're offering you 300, 700, 100 for this, or this, if you, sponsorships. And the one thing I'm just worried about, as far as sponsorships are concerned, is basically, I do not want, for any reason, to be like, for any reason at all, canceled out because I throw in one bad word. That's the only thing I would be saying. If I can say whatever I want to say and be myself, great. If your product works, if it, the thing is, if I wanted to be sponsored, I want to be sponsored, especially if it's, as far as food is concerned, I want to know your rep. If you're a good rep, Oh yeah, sure, sure. If the people love your brand and you feel I'm a great fit for it, all right, I'd be glad to, say every so often at the start of, the first hour, second hour, oh, hello, blah, 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 blah. This stream is sponsored by blah, 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 blah. I like to, I wouldn't mind. But the thing is, they want you to be clean. I'm like, I can't guarantee you that. I mean, really, I cannot guarantee that you will hear me not throw out the usual shit, fuck, damn. Whatever. That I'm going with the situation of where I am in the game and whatnot. That just wouldn't feel right. It's like, oh, we can't pay you because you said shit. Oh, we can't pay you because you said damn. Oh, we can't pay you because you just said fuck. I'm like, well then, I can't work for you then. I said, I can't be 100% squeaky clean, okay? Because I play for a general audience. For those who want to see it and those who want to stay around for it. And I'm not trying to be pushy. I'm just saying, oh, hey, I want to play this game too. I want to get a feel for this. I want everybody to see this. It's the same thing as being a Let's Player. That's what Let's Plays are about. You watch me play. That's what Let's Play is about. That's really what it means. You're watching somebody else play a game. So therefore, you watch, I play. You watch what I play. So therefore, a Let's Play. That's the hardest thing about, streaming, because you have to do a whole lot of work to make a stream, especially if you're a name, oh yeah, you're in. You're totally in. But if you're not, well, you're just there. But, like I said, what I do is I just do it for the fun of it. And if I could make some money off of what I enjoy doing, great. Awesome. That's probably the only thing that is an issue. It's like whenever I work on something, I treat what I do on here as work. But I enjoy what I do because I can be myself. Even when I was working at school, I never had to be anybody else but me. And the kids love that because that's who I was. I brought video games to class sometimes. I brought my PS2. I brought my Wii. Whenever there was a festival going on, who they turned to for games? Oh, they went to Mr. Izzy. And I said, well, I could bring in something, whatever. That was old. That was back in the day when I had all my consoles. I had no problem doing that. Because I had something to carry my consoles. But I still have my bags. I didn't mind carrying my consoles in one bag and just set everything up. And usually it takes a good 5, 10, 15 minutes just to make sure, okay, everything is running smoothly. I have to make sure, I have to make sure everything checks out before I start anything. And the only thing I didn't do was bring in my memory cards. I kept the memory cards at home. Or if I wanted to, I would have got some dummy cards. Cards that are going to be for festival use only, and then after After done, take it home, put it on my console, and just erase it so it'd be a dummy card. Video games, to me, have very often saved my life. It is basically where I had a rough life. Most people do not realize, but I had a very rough life. And knowing that I have cerebral palsy, you can see where this is going. My speech is affected by this disability. And I had to deal with this disability every day. So therefore, I never used to talk very often. But when I talked, I didn't talk so much. Yes, I get you. Yes, whatever. It's fun sometimes. Anyway, about what I was saying, yes, I still have this disability. It doesn't go away. And I'm trying to do something about it. I know my rights and everything else, but, aside from that, as I said, video games have kept me from going down the wrong path in life. It kept me home. It gave me a reason to come home. It gave me a reason to basically stay up for a while, make my own Let's Plays, put them up on my channel, and for anybody who wants to see what I'm playing, they can. And I'm glad that YouTube has expanded to where you can schedule your parts to go up on, say, however far in the future you want to do it. And that's what I've learned to do over the years I've been on YouTube, which is basically, now that you have gone past the limit of 15 minutes, you've been awarded to go as long as you want, and what you'll have to do is, you can now do this. You can now set up your videos to where, if you want to do this, bloop, 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 have them ready for the week, and that's what I usually do. That's what I do now. I usually make parts that basically it's for the week. Anything I make now is like, in case of anything happening. That's the reason why I make parts now. It's like, if I finish something, great. Guess what? It's still going up. I'm going to upload it. There it is. So no matter what happens, say if I do go back to work, or I have a doctor's appointment, or what have you. Say I'm all set. I don't have to worry about the week coming in, but I'm ready to go. And like I said, what does it have to do about this video? Is what I said. I enjoy retro games more than I like modern, because I feel people are too spoiled on modern. But they feel that modern is harder than playing something retro. I was like, no, it's about the same. You play an RPG, that is probably the best medium that you can figure on how the game plays out. Because RPGs do not have a toggle. Most of them don't have a toggle. Like, say, Dragon Quest. Or, Tobal. Urgeist. Wild Arms. Final Fantasy. Lagrange Point. You name it, it never had a toggle. It just basically was default, normal. And if you can get past the game through normal, you're good. You don't have to play hard. normal was easy and hard. It basically varied from easy into hard. And if you weren't ready for the if you weren't ready for hard, you at least had to be on easy. You had to basically work yourself into normal and then go into hard. And most people now, they go simply into hard because, oh, I played this game before. I know this game from back to front. And all of a sudden, what happened? You're level 1, dead. What'd you do? Did you just think, oh, hey, I can take this game on and I said, okay. Why do you think I played the game on easy? I have nothing to prove. That's the reason why I always play a game on easy. I have nothing to prove. If there wasn't any game, if there was a game with a toggle, I put it on easy because I want to get a feel for it. If I knew how to play it to where, the aggressive wasn't too aggressive, yeah, that's the only reason why I switch usual games from normal to easy. Because the default was always normal. And if you've known any other game that just had a toggle from normal to easy, oh hey, it should be like that. It shouldn't be too hard, but it's not too easy. Just a nice, fine medium between easy and hard. And that's that's the fine line of RPGs. Because if you really want to know how it tweaks, just play an RPG. And I mean a straight up turn-based RPG. Or action RPG. Or if you really want hard, tactical. Tactical is basically the hardest of all RPG hybrids because it is what it is. You're thinking about, how you should plan this move out. You play something like SRW. SRW is a great example of this. SRW is basically one of those games in which you have to power up in order to survive. You have to max out your units so they can wipe the floor with the enemy units. And no matter how much there are, it's like you have 20 units on one end. This is your side. Player units like, say, 20 units. 22 units. Versus, say, an armada of 50 or so units. And sometimes you could basically get the following. Defeat this enemy within, say, 5 minutes, 5 turns. That means from the moment the enemy appears, you gotta at least say have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's at least 5 good units to basically do enough damage just to say, okay, we start this, and then whatever your units are that are still healing from the last batch, okay, you set them in fresh and boom, you go to work on them. And I mean, the older games weren't exactly like the newer games. So there you go. And like I said, that is what I consider is the hardest definition of RPGs, the tactical. Because tactical really wears on you. And it's a mental game. And most times I find myself coming to terms of playing an older. If ever I had to play something older, it's going to be a tactical. Because usually whenever I have one of those days, Excuse me. Whenever I have one of those days, I usually like to go into a tactical RPG. Because basically, like, I can easily release what's been happening, what's been going on. If I had a day, if I was busy, or I just basically like. So I don't want to talk about it. This is all I'm doing. Just that's all I'm doing. And that's why I find it so funny. It's like, for out of all the games that I've ever played on my channel, the most I come back to would be, a tactical. Because I feel like RPGs are basically like, you can never, ever, 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 ever not go back to an RPG. Because you will always find yourself back in a safe spot with an RPG. And an RPG to me is like a good book. And that's why an RPG, any RPG to me is like, okay, come back here. Come back home. Okay, we're reading a book. You're reading a chapter. Chapter's about 30, 40 pages long. Considering that one game, one part, considering if you've been on my channel and you see how long some parts are, they're like 50 minutes or between a maximum between 30 to 50 minutes. Let's consider that for a moment. I play retro games more than I play modern games. For a retro game, depending, each part would at least take 30, 40 minutes tops. 50 to an hour would be because of if there was a lot of plot dumping going on, and after that there was no time to save, or there wasn't a spot you couldn't save, and thank God there are save states. My thing is, whenever I'm playing a game, no matter how old the game is, whether it's NES, SNES, Game Boy, Color, Advance, DS, 3DS, Master System, it doesn't matter. I just find myself doing games that usually take about 30, 50 minutes to almost a damn near hour most times. And sometimes when I'm really at a final battle, it usually takes longer than that. And the shortest time I've ever played a game that had not much left on the table except for maybe 30 minutes would be the most recent one, Evolution 2 for Dreamcast. Because all I did was basically did the following. I level grinded off camera. Then thankfully the game just basically fast travels you from where your stop point is. Excuse me. Your stop point is to, how deep the dungeon is. So basically, either you're going up the dungeon or down the dungeon. So it's either you're going up through a tower or down in a dungeon. That's the only way Evolution was going. Like, basically, Evolution was going like in a dungeon. You were going. The first one is dungeon, 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 dungeon. So you kept going down, 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 down. Evolution 2, dungeon, tower, dungeon, tower, dungeon. And the only thing you had to find was the map. Everything else, you found these random items that might help you, that might upgrade, or what have you. And, there you go. National Retro Gaming Video Game. National Retro Video Game Day. I was rather surprised to hear about this was an actual thing. Just like with Mario. Now, it's like Mario. I've never done a Mario game past that Game Boy Advance one, only because if ever I did a Nintendo game, one of two things might happen. If I play a Mario game, yeah, I'm not sure what will happen because how YouTube is with Nintendo. They might hit me with copyright. And I already got a strike on my channel just because of something stupid. Basically, from an old Sentai song, I was playing through Melody's Escape. And basically it was like what, 7 years ago? No, 8 years ago. I'm looking at my date. 2015. 2015. Looking at 2023. You gave me a strike just because of a song off a video game that basically was like that was against regulation. I don't know. So the only thing I could do is just say, oh, let me just write you a letter. Say, listen, whatever I did, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was like that. Could you please accept my apology? That's all I could do. Now the thing about, being a retro gamer is that it's very wide. The spectrum is very wide as far as video games are concerned. And I find that very interesting because, especially now, there are plenty of video games out there that have not seen the light of day, and not because of region. It's just nobody has ever heard of these titles. And one of the most places I frequent as far as that is concerned is this. CD Romance. This is where I go to get my fan translations. I get more fan translations than ROM hacks. Because I prefer fan translations over ROM hacks. So I mean, it's totally different, And plus, I mean, look what they did. Basically, this is how you basically make a game totally different. This is how you keep a game fresh. You make it different because, you can put it in a different language. Nobody could ever do it in a different language. Or you can hack it to where it becomes a totally different game. Or even games like these, basically, it has never seen the light of day. So guess what? People put in time and effort into actually translating these games to the best of their ability, just so a newer generation can actually enjoy something like this. They can actually enjoy older games, but being that if they want to stream them or do them as Let's Plays or what have you, they can. And that's a wonderful thing. And that's the reason why, for me, it's my go-to no matter what. A video game is always going to be my come back to and go-to. If ever I had a day, if ever I just feel like winding down, that's what I do. I play a video game. I make parts. I put it up and just say, okay, boom. Put them up, say, okay, if I'm going to have a busy week, if I'm not going to be here, okay, this game is done. Type it up. It takes like a few minutes just to type up what I'm going to say about the video game, or actually the title in story, where it stands and whatnot. But I basically say, well, this is what's happening here, and da 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 da. Takes a good 5-10 minutes just to think of something witty and say, oh, well, this is what this part's about, without spoiling for you. But most people, like I said, most people are either too spoiled on modern to actually realize the beauty of a retro game, or they're too high up there to even really notice what actual retro games like. Or to some of us, what is vintage? Vintage is playing something like Mario, Pac-Man, Dynamite, Duck Hunt. All the games that we grew up with, where you came from, the 80s or the 90s. If you were 80s, that was basically, you were growing up with the prime. You had Atari, you still had Commodore 64, Nintendo, Sega, they were just coming on the scene, so they were the new kids. You still had the older generation. You even had the ones that were basically like hiding in the shadow, but they were still there. ColecoVision, Tandy, whatnot. You still even had Texas Instruments, Apple IIc. You had basically everything that ever needed to be known about a video game at your fingertips. Even if you weren't into video games, but you wanted to get into it, you can enjoy it. As for today, well, we don't know what the hell's going on today as far as video games are concerned, because people are getting too bent out of shape over one video game. People get bent out of shape over, say, playing a ROM hack that is made for those who want a challenge. And I won't name names, but there are people out there who say they get so bored off of playing something straight vanilla and they want something different. Okay, so you want something that tastes like rhubarb. You want something that tastes like slimy okra. Okay. You don't want something that tastes... You don't want a game that is like a flavor that you may enjoy, or some food that you may enjoy, like fried chicken, or candied yams, or something like that. No. Basically, oh hey, this is what your thing is. No, it's not gonna work. I feel gaming these days is technically strained. That's what I feel right now, because as there's more supply and demand, and with streaming being on the rise and just being a thing now, it's like, well, let's see. If you were to ask me would I like to make a living off of playing a video game, I sure would. I would like to know how much am I getting for doing this? How long do I need to do this? And will I still be paid if I don't want to do it that long? Because, like I said, I treat it as a job. Even though, some people don't get it, but I've learned whatever I'm doing in life, I just have to do the best I can do with it. And I've done my best. And I look at, what I've done so far in life, when I actually had something to do. I did volunteer work And the thing is, doing volunteer work still means I'm getting experience. And that's not a bad thing because, oh, hey, even if you're not in a position, you're setting yourself up for set a better position than you are right now. So there's that. That gives you experience. And I had like quite a bit of field experience as Mr. Izzy for 10 years because I taught poetry and Japanese. And I taught a little bit of video games too, but not so much. And all I did was just taught them what I knew. Being a writer, yeah. Being, my experience in Japan. That's the stuff that people don't get. And that's something, that needs to be shared. Oh, hey, you don't have to do this, but you might consider this. And I feel like, hey, I want to come back to doing that. But this time, I want to come out with a paycheck. Okay? That's all I want. I just want a paycheck. I don't mind doing the time. I just want to make sure that I have all my channels locked in place before I do it. But National Retro Video Game Day. Just remember, you're a gamer. It you don't have to say, "Oh, I'm a gamer girl." No, you're a gamer. I feel, these days, when you have to make an emphasis on saying you're a gamer, that means one thing. Do you enjoy playing the game? Or does it mean your preference? Because don't make it that you enjoy the game, but this is your preference. Like, nobody needs to know that. That's why I feel is kind of like spoiling yourself. You're spoiling yourself by saying, "Oh, this is my preference." And like, dude, nobody cares. The only fact is, do people like being around you? If they do, good. But as long as you don't push out your preference, don't push out your preference. Aside from that, enjoy the game that you're doing. And that's what it should be about. When you're streaming, or you're doing a Let's Play, or whatever you're doing with a video game, enjoy for all it's worth. As long as it does what it's supposed to do, which is supposed to entertain you. It's supposed to take the edge off of life. Not many people know that's what video games are for, is to take the edge off of life. And even for me, when I'm talking about something like this, it takes the edge off of what I'm dealing with, my personal battles. I have to deal with this, and this. The stuff that people don't see is what I deal with. And the one thing that kind of makes it all like melt away, all the stress and whatnot, is a video game. So there's that. Anyway, I think I've spoken. I feel I've spoken long enough. But, always remember a video game. No matter if it's old or if it's new, just play it. It's better if you enjoy the game for what it's worth. After all, it's the journey. It's not how fast you have to make it or whatnot, but as long as you enjoy it for all it's worth, that's what should count. Sound good? Sound good. And until next time, with whatever I plan on doing, I've been your friendly neighborhood Tenkaichi, and this was a video on video games, a National Retro Video Game Day, March the 8th. Brought to us by edvas.com. So, until next time, people, take care, and remember, sprint forward, fall back. Tenkai Muso.